All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. This is Jamie Green from Unmuted Destiny with Jamie Green, and I am thrilled to have a young lady with me tonight. As I've been saying, we are going to honor the memory of my sister Sylvia Palmer White this entire month of November, and so what I've chosen to do is to have individuals come and speak with us about some of the issues that Sylvia dealt with and to be able to share their personal experience in that way. So, good evening and welcome to another episode of Unmuted Destiny. And I have a great, intimate conversation lined up tonight, one that touches deep and often overlooks the intersection of Black maternal health and mental wellness. In honor of our Sylvia Sister Circle mission, I have a special guest here with me tonight, Miss Jasmine Abbott-Banks. And Jasmine has a personal experience with Black maternal health challenges. When she was pregnant with her son, she had a terrifying experience with HELP. I guess it's pronounced HELP,
Yes.
HELP syndrome. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. It is a life threatening pregnancy complication that nearly took her life. And so, as we are in alignment with our Sylvia's Sister Circle initiative, we're going to have Jasmine to share just a little bit of her story, what it was like for her, and how she's doing today, her and the baby. Jasmine Abbott Banks was born here on the Eastern Shore in Snow Hill, Maryland, and she's the daughter of William Billy Abbott and Geneva Banks Abbott. She's the mother of one precious baby boy, and I think his name is Dakari. Is that
Yes,
correct?
ma'am.
Brown, and she's also a certified cardiographic technician, which is really interesting, Jasmine, because I was sent to have a cardio CAT scan a couple of weeks ago, and
Okay.
they could not even do it because my heart rate was so fast. And I didn't feel like it was going fast. I just was sitting there, but they kept checking it, and the doctor was like, even if we give you medication to slow it down a little bit, it's not going to go down low enough for us to do the test. I'm like, what in the world?
Oh my.
Anyway, and she wants to become a cardiac sonographer in the near future. Jasmine enjoys reading, crafting, and watching the stars. She likes to sing, laugh, and playing with her son are her favorite things to do. Welcome to the platform, Jasmine. It's an honor to have you come with to share with us tonight.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, um, can you share just a little bit about what exactly is HELP syndrome and how did you come to be diagnosed with it?
Okay, so HELP syndrome is a form of preeclampsia. It stands for hemolysis, which is the rupturing of your red blood cells, elevated liver enzymes, and low platelets. So basically, you can spontaneously bleed, and depending on when you deliver, that's when it would stop.
Wow.
So if you haven't delivered yet or you didn't know that you were bleeding, which was in my case the day before I gave birth, I was bleeding that night and didn't realize it. Um, it could be fatal because you could bleed out and not realize it. It'll kill you and the infant.
Absolutely. Wow. So, what was going on in your pregnancy when you first started feeling like something wasn't right? Or did you have any advanced symptoms or you noticed like something is off here?
Yes, in hindsight, I had lots of symptoms, and after being diagnosed and looking at the symptoms of it, I had a lot of swelling that seemed to appear out of nowhere. Um, I had a lot of headaches off and on, and I thought that I was complaining because my first child, I didn't know what it felt like to be pregnant, and I
Yeah.
always heard about pregnant women having aches and pains and
Yeah.
all of that. So I thought that I was just complaining about being pregnant. I thought it was normal pregnancy stuff.
Yeah. And that's
but I
interesting.
definitely had a whole lot of symptoms.
Wow. So, do you feel like your health providers were on top of symptoms that they noticed what was going on, or do you feel like they didn't hear you or they didn't support you at that time?
I felt supported by my OBGYN. She was the one that actually caught the HELP syndrome per se, because when I went for my 38-week appointment that day, um, I was about to go home and she was like, "Wait a minute, your blood pressure was up just a little bit. It wasn't like extraordinarily high at all." But she was like, "Well, that's kind of high for you. So I want to send you over to labor and delivery and then they're going to watch you for a little bit." But I feel like anybody else who didn't know me that well and, didn't have that rapport with me would have just been like, "Well, it's not that high. I'll just see her when she comes back to deliver." And I probably wouldn't have made it back.
Yeah, and that's important. That's I definitely want to point that out because having medical professionals that you know and that know you is so important. Because I know with a lot of the health challenges I have, when I my regular doctor and I somebody else that may be on staff or and they always half the time don't know what they're talking about. And I'm of course I'm going to say, no, that's not what happened. That's not what's going on here.
Right.
Well, just give me something, fix me up until my doctor comes back. Okay, thanks. But
Right.
I think about my sister Sylvia, who, when she was pregnant with her son, went to the emergency room multiple times. Something's not right. I don't feel good, and they kept sending her back home, sending her back home, and finally, she did have. She went back and she had preeclampsia, and it was so bad that they had to medevac her to Baltimore,
Mm.
and they told us to, come on over there, because once you got there, they were like, we don't know. We probably won't be able to save the baby, but we're going to do all we can to save her. But thank God both of them survived. But she definitely did not have good medical care. She definitely did not have people paying attention to the symptoms. And sometimes, and this is one of the reasons why I do this, have these conversations, because the reality is in this country, Black mothers do not get, in general, as a whole, we do not get the care that our counterparts get, mainly sometimes because we don't have good insurance. So they just kind of, treat you and push you on out the door. And so that's why it's so important for us to advocate for ourselves, to speak up for ourselves and say, no, something is wrong. This is not normal. I don't feel well, and I'm not leaving here until I find out what's wrong with me. So I appreciate that you feel supported and you felt hurt, because that's extremely important to me.
And
Um,
she was definitely very forward in saying, because she's a woman of color. So she was like, "These symptoms that you're having, because
yeah,
I'm a woman of color and I see you, like it
yeah,
helps to have somebody who looks like you to talk to you and so that you can understand and relate." I really attribute that to her catching things and being on top of it, because she knew what to look for in me.
right. I mean, because let's just be real, it's not about, oh, you racist, you what. No, I'm just a realistic person. And people who don't look like me don't think like me. And so they don't see things the way that I would see it, or somebody else that looks like me would see it. And so that's
Right.
why it's so important that we have people that look like us in the medical field. And that's why I'm encouraging our young people to pursue education in the medical field, because we need more of us to be able to take care of us. How did your family support you during this time?
Um, well, at some point in an emergent situation, I was in and out of consciousness, and I remember going out of consciousness the first time, and the room was filled with like medical professionals. But when I came back, I saw all of my family, family
Mhm.
that I didn't expect to see. I was in and out of consciousness most of the time. And then when I had surgery, I was kind of like in a medically induced state, but I could still kind of hear and see things. It was kind of spotty, but I saw family members I hadn't seen in a few years. And like when
Yeah,
when prayers went up for Jasmine, everybody prayed, and I felt and heard those prayers for sure.
yeah,
And I
absolutely.
even after everything, my mom and my dad, like everybody was there, like around the clock. Like nobody took a break.
I
Like they
love it.
made
I
sure
love
that I had the support that I needed, even from I was living 2 hours away from them then.
I love it. I love it. And I think back to when my sister was there. She was in a coma. And like I said, they were telling us we don't know if she's going to make it. We know we can't save the baby, but we're going to do what we can to save her. And people were coming and going. Like you said, family members you haven't seen since Jesus was a baby. And the room was full of people. And you know how our families are. They praying and praying and praying. And
Hmm.
um, and later on, she did say also that she could hear people sometimes, but she felt like she was way off in somewhere else and just watching. But
Absolutely.
yeah, but we surrounded her with prayer and we just, believed God. So, in your personal opinion, um, what are some of the things that you think that would encourage a woman who may be going through some medical issues, not just with pregnancy, but even after pregnancy? What are some things that you would encourage us as Black women to do and to look out for?
The number one thing is to listen to your body. Um, During my pregnancy, I was working 3 jobs because I need to do everything type of person. And then I found out so late that I was pregnant. I was halfway done. I was almost 20 weeks when I found out. So I felt this sense of urgency. I got to have money. I got to do this. I got to
Yeah.
do that. And my body was giving me all of these signals like, you need to slow down, you need to sit down. And I was just like, no, 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 I need to do this. And I really feel like putting that stress on myself and the other stressful situations that I was in at the time contributed to how my body reacted towards the end.
Okay.
So definitely
So,
listening to yourself and not feeling guilty for needing help or asking for help.
so do you feel did you feel any level of guilt for like you say, you felt like maybe the blood pressure and whatever, some of that was a result of the stress that you put yourself under. Did you feel
Mhm.
any guilt about how things went after you recovered from, you came out the coma and did you have any guilt about, oh my God, this would not have happened to me or my baby if I had just slowed down a little bit?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had a lot of guilt. I felt like, oh, you did too much. And then I got a praying grandmother. So she would be
Yeah.
on the phone telling me, you doing too much. And I lived on the third floor of my apartment building. So I'm walking up steps every day. And, everybody's telling me, you need to sit down. And I'm like, I feel fine. Just, let me do me.
Yeah.
And, I felt like I was putting so much stress on myself. But after speaking with doctors and everything, they were basically saying like if it was going to happen, it was going to happen. You might have contributed a little tiny bit of stress, but not so much to make your liver spontaneously start bleeding.
Exactly, because yeah, I don't think that had anything to do with you for the most
No.
part. But because as Black women, and especially as mothers, like we have this built-in thing about I got to do everything right, I got to do that, and then when it doesn't
Yeah.
go right, okay, I did something wrong. What did I? We start reevaluating, and especially if it involves our children. Oh my God, I did this. What could I? We go through all that. But the important thing is that you live through it and you have the opportunity to share your story with other young women who may be experiencing some difficulties with their bodies and afraid to talk about it. I was talking to somebody earlier about, they asked me, what do I think are a couple of reasons why we as Black women don't, we have maternal issues and challenges that our counterparts don't have. And I said, personally, I think one is the lack of good insurance
Hmm.
that most of us don't have because of our economic situations. Because I personally have been in places where I was made to feel like yeah, you might be about to have a stroke. Your blood pressure might be 200 over 160 or something like that. But you don't have good insurance. We're gonna have to hurry up and treat you and get you. I think the term that I heard was treat them and street them. Like we're gonna hurry up and get you something, get you calm down and send you on out of here. Whereas if I had better insurance, I would have got better treatment. So I think that's part of it. And then another part is I think that as Black people, and especially women, we don't really trust medical people like we should. Like there's this not gonna look out for you, they're not gonna smile for you. So why waste your time going over there? And I think that by the time we get to the doctor, sometimes we have already developed issues that could have been avoided. Like in my case, with both of my children,
Hmm.
I still had menstrual cycles for like 6 months. I didn't even know I was pregnant. Like I thought I
Wow.
had the flu or something. Like, and I go to the doctor and I'm like, oh my God, I got the flu. I think I'm dying. And and the doctor's like, well, let's take a pregnancy test. I'm like, I'm throwing up. He's throwing up and everything. And I'm like, are you crazy? I don't need a pregnancy test. Da, 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 da. And he said, well, let's just do it both times. And they're 12 and a half years apart, my sons are. And both times I still was
Oh
having my
my.
menstrual cycle. So the last time when I went to the doctor with Trey, I was like, oh my God, I don't know what's wrong with me. Just like, I just want to die. I was just so sick. Girl, when that man came back in that room, you know how you're sitting on the edge of the table, right? When he came back in that room and said I was pregnant, I fell back like I didn't even look and see if I was falling on the
Oh,
floor. I just fell back and started crying like somebody had died because I
oh
was,
my gosh.
it was, in hindsight, it was like, Jamie, stop being so dramatic. But Byron was 12 and a half years old. Like, I'm not doing this again. What is going on here? And I just cried and cried and cried. And then you think that's bad. Listen to this. I wake up sometimes later and the nurse is tapping me on the arm. She said, Miss Green, are you okay? We really need this room. I'm like looking around, girl, I done cried myself to sleep. And she said, the doctor said, oh, she's really having a hard time. Just let her lay here for a little while. We'll come back and get her if we need the room. You talk about embarrassing. But I just could not believe I was pregnant like 12 years later. So look at all that time that I was out without medical care, without seeing the doctor and everything, because I just did not know. And so I think sometimes we just, even when we do know, we don't go to the doctor because our culture teaches us, well, great grandma and great auntie, they had babies at home. They didn't have to go to
Yep.
the doctor. And we just think, as long as I'm feeling okay, I'm fine. And then
Yep.
when something bad happens, there we are. But I just want to say that I think you sharing your testimony and your experience, um, and that you don't are not ashamed to share it, is important because there are many of us, and especially in your age group, that need to know that you have got to pay attention to your body. You know your body better than anybody else. When something is off, go get looked at. Don't wait until it's like you got to be drugged to the hospital. And I was also thinking when I was preparing for tonight, I appreciate that you want to help raise awareness for others. But what do you think? What role do you think your faith played in your process of healing, and even as you continue to heal now? What do you think your faith? How do you think your faith played in that?
It played a huge role in that. Having a doctor stand in front of you and tell you that we have to do surgery, and if we open you up, you may bleed out and you may die.
Yeah,
And that kind of hits you in your chest when you hear it. But I honestly, I was telling my mother, I don't remember being scared. Like
Okay.
I remember taking in the information that she was telling me, and I think that even she thought that I didn't understand what she was saying, because she was like, "You get what I'm saying? Like you could die.
Mhm.
Like we're going to bring you your baby so you can say bye to your baby."
Wow.
And all I could think was, it's such a shame that she's so full of doubt, because I didn't feel afraid or doubtful. And I believe that's just because I had that foundation. Like I had
Yes.
something to stand on. So even down to the surgeon that did my surgery, the first surgery, I felt the doubt in her when she was talking to me. So um God rest his soul, Bishop Jesse E.C. Abbott, he always taught us to pray. So I grabbed her hands and told her, I know you're going to operate on me, but I need to pray for you before you touch me.
That's right.
Because
That's right. That's right.
I don't like
Absolutely.
all of this doubt. And I know that I'm going to come out on the other side of this. All I kept hearing every time she said that I was going to die is that I was going to live.
All
So
right
I
now.
believe, my foundation definitely played a big role in that.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important for us to have a foundation, right? And okay, so how many surgeries did you have altogether?
Two.
Two. Okay.
Two.
And when
Yes.
I was thinking about what you have been through, where you are now, and I just watched you even Saturday night when we were laughing and joking and having fun, and how had you not had faith, had you not had that foundation, you may not even be here. I
Right.
remember when I had, I'm gonna share this and then I'm gonna let you go in a minute, but I had two spinal fusion surgeries within 3 months of each other, because the first one, screws came out of the plate in my neck, and so they had to go back in and do it again. And that time, the surgeon nicked my jugular vein, and they said that they lost me twice on the table because they couldn't stop the bleeding. But like you, I was raised in a family that taught us to believe and taught us to have faith. And no matter whether you live in 100% right, doing everything that you should be doing or whatever, God still hears your prayers, right? And so I
Absolutely.
prayed for, I went in surgery, I prayed for the doctor as well. And he said to me, and I found out later on, this 2.5 hours procedure ended up being like close to 11 hours,
Ooh.
because they couldn't stop the bleeding. And he said to me a couple of days later, he said, there was a point in the surgery when I just didn't know what to do. He said, and I don't consider myself a man of faith. I don't, know about God or anything like that. He said, but I know you are a woman of faith. He said, and I remember standing there and I said, God, if you are real, like Miss Green believes you are, I need you to guide my hands because I'm not going to leave this operating room without her. And he, from that
Okay.
point on, God moved, and I'm here. But my point with that is it is so important for us not to allow other people to dictate our faith and to tell us, well, I don't believe. That's between you and God if you don't believe, but I
Right.
believe, and my faith is what's going to pull me through the situation. And so I love that about you. I love that part of your testimony. And I just believe, after you had your baby and you realized, what was going on, the challenges that you had gone through, the first day that you were able to hold your baby
Oh,
and know that everything was going to be okay, what was that like?
I think I cried all day long. I just held him and I cried. We were in two separate hospitals, and
Oh,
because his father and I weren't married, we didn't have a chance to sign an affidavit after he was born because I got sick. So technically, he didn't belong to us at first. So that all depended upon me waking up, whether his dad could even have
oh,
custody of him.
wow.
So yeah, he belonged to the state of Maryland at that point. But after I woke up and we signed everything, they he was able to get him from that hospital, and he brought him to see me at Shock Trauma. And shout out to Shock Trauma and Anne Arundel Medical Center, because their ICU staff, mother, baby, labor, delivery, all of that, they were the bomb the whole time. Like I didn't have any bad
Oh,
experiences with anybody the whole time, and they even catered to the fact that I was in a surgical ICU and I was breastfeeding, and they had specialists, lactation specialists, coming to see me, and I was allowed extra guests, and it was great. But after he brought him to me, I couldn't do anything but hold him. I held him, I fed him, and he could only stay for a little while. So that's when that postpartum kind of set in. Every time he would leave,
Right,
I would cry
right.
for hours.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
understandable. That's understandable. So he's how old now?
14 months.
Wow. Isn't that something?
Yes.
And I know he's spoiled because your father, he loves that baby, honey.
He
Let me tell
does. That's
you.
his boy.
I look at his posts sometime on social media and but it's a blessing to have family like that and for him to grow up in loved and cherished like that. So happy for him. Is there anything
Yeah.
that you would like? Let me see if we have any questions. Okay. No. All right. So is there anything else that you would like to share with the listeners and those who are listening in the replay with regard to Black maternal health? And what are you, some suggestions that you have and advice you'd like to give us with regard to taking care of ourselves and getting the health care that we need?
Um, like I said before, listen to your body, but most importantly, go to the doctor, keep up with your appointments. Don't let life get away from you where you let things slip up. If you feel something, just look into it. Small things can turn into big things really, really quickly. That was definitely my take from my experience. I just thought what I
Yeah.
had was indigestion the night before, and the whole time I was bleeding from my liver. And I went hours
Yeah.
and pushed the baby out and everything. I didn't even have a C-section. I delivered them naturally, and all of that pushing and all of that just made everything even worse. So just
Yeah.
listen to your body, slow down, um, stay in tune with the voice of God, whatever God you pray to. Find your center and listen to that voice and allow it to guide you, and just stay on top of yourself. There's nothing wrong with it. Don't feel guilty for taking a break. None of that stuff that we do to ourselves.
Absolutely. Okay. So are you wanting to have any more children or was that it?
At first I said I didn't, but I don't know. I think he might look good as a big brother one day. I don't know.
I know that's right. That is so cute. Well, again, I thank you for taking time to with us tonight to share. As I said, my sister, she died in 2005, and was when she died, she ended up, as a result of the preeclampsia, all of her major organs shut down.
Yes.
And so she ended up, when she died, she was a resident at Deer's Head. She was on dialysis. All of her organs were just in bad shape, just from, that maternal experience. Because like I said, she was so sick for so long before it was even caught that by the time they said, "Oh my, this is what's happening," it was like really, it took God to keep her. And they said, they gave up on the baby, but the baby is 27 now. And he's going to be joining me on the podcast at the end of the month to celebrate his mom. So, again, I just thank you, Jasmine, for taking this time to talk to me. When I reached out to you, you did not hesitate. And I appreciate that so much. If there's
Thank you
anything
again.
I can do, just let me know.
I will continue to keep me in your prayers and my baby and my family. That's
I
all
most
I ask.
certainly will. Okay. All right. You have a good evening and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.